Hello and welcome to another episode of the D.A.R.E podcast. I'm Miranda Brawn, your host, creator and the co-producer, and I'm delighted to welcome a very special guest with us here today. Her name is Baroness Doreen Lawrence, and she is an icon when it comes to the UK and fighting for racial justice. So I would love to welcome you, Doreen, to the D.A.R.E podcast. Thank you so much for coming on board and supporting us. You have done so much, and it's funny, when I was doing my research and looking through all of the great work that you have done, I was like, how are we going to fit all of this into 60 minutes? It's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to do my best shot of getting this done. So why don't we start at the very beginning? And I always start with the childhood, but why don't you introduce yourself? Because our audience, I mean, the D.A.R.E podcast, it's the D stands for having the determination to dream bigger. A is all about taking the action and daily affirmations. R is the resilience, the reinvention of who you are, but also realistic self-assessment of where you are now and where you want to get to. And the E is that energy, that positive energy, that enthusiasm, but also the education in order to have a successful mindset to achieve your goals. And so all of our guests are very successful in their own right. And I would love you to introduce yourself to our audience, which ranges from the classroom to the boardroom and beyond, for anyone that might not know who you are, who's been sleeping under a rock for the last 30 years, or maybe, wasn't born 30 years ago.
Okay, so I'm Doreen Lawrence. I became a peer in 2013. So I sit in the House of Lords, and we say the benches. That's where we sit on the red benches. And I've been doing for the past 12, 13 years. That's where I've been. I do enjoy being in the House of Lords. I think we achieve so much. We make such a big difference. And right now is a really difficult time for us being in the House of Lords, because trying to get as many of our policies through. So, voting is something that we're expected to be there. So we have, today, we have a 3-line whip, and I've done 2 votes already, and I've got another 5 to go.
That sounds like a very busy day. But, people know you mostly as being a British Jamaican campaigner, the mother of Stephen Lawrence, who was a black British teenager who was murdered in a racist attack in southeast London in 1993. And so you also promoted reforms of the police service, and you founded the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust. You've since also founded the Stephen Lawrence Foundation Day.
Yes, there's 2 things. So the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust, back in 98,
yes,
when that was founded, and since 2020, the Stephen Lawrence Day Foundation. So the foundation, now we're looking at classroom, community and careers. I'm no longer part of the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust. So the foundation is where Stephen's name is and where my name is at the moment.
Great, and thank you for clarifying that. And you've also been a chancellor, a university chancellor?
Yes, Chancellor at De Montfort for 4 years. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed speaking to the students, because I feel that when students apply and go to university, they all arrive with the same qualification, the same degree, the same stature. But by the time especially for black students, by the time they graduate, a lot of students don't get a first. They probably get a 2 or 2.2. And maybe a 2-1. And so I love speaking to the students to let them have that confidence in themselves, to challenge themselves, as well as to challenge the university, because that's what the university is there for, is to make sure that they get the best out of themselves while they're there.
Definitely. And you've also been selected to sit on panels with the Home Office and the police. You have been a member of the board and the Council of Liberty, which is a human rights organisation. You've been a patron of a hate crime charity, Stop Hate UK.
Yes.
And you've worked with the British Institute of British Architects, and you've established the Stephen Lawrence Prize. You've done so much. And then you were also, in April 2020, appointed a race relations advisor to the Labour Party.
Yes. During, I think, just before the COVID happened, when Keir Starmer was the Prime Minister now, when he was going to be the leader of the Labour Party. So I introduced him, so I went to Manchester to introduce him to the audience. And after that, I think I looked around the audience, I just thought, I need to be your race advisor, because I just didn't see people like myself in the audience. And so once he became the leader, my first phone call was to him to say, this is what I think you need. You need to have me as your race advisor. So, and then COVID happened. So we were stuck at home. But then I also was going around the country talking to various people around about COVID and the impact of COVID that had on them. And that was very interesting because, yes, I couldn't visit around the country myself, but we were on Zoom, Teams. So I was able to meet a lot of people, a lot of professionals.
Yeah. And clearly now, fast forward to 2025 stroke 2026, and we're clearly in 2026 now recording this, but you're also the chair of the Race Equality Engagement Group. And I'm a member of that. You very kindly invited me to join this. And this is where we're advising the UK government, the Cabinet Office, and the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, on how we can actually have a more racial, equal environment across education, across business, healthcare, the criminal justice system. And so why don't you inform the audience in terms of the great work that we've been doing? We've been established for nearly a year, but why don't you tell the audience in terms of why we exist and what we're looking to achieve?
I think for me, I wanted to make sure that as a race advisor to the government, because most of the time, you do all these interviews, you do round tables, and nothing comes of them. They just sit on the shelf. The report sits on the shelf. And I just said, that's not what's going to happen to this group. I want us to be able to influence policy. I want us to be able to speak to ministers to make sure that they're looking at race equality in the round and not just something like a tick box. So having the group, I just think is so important that I think the people on the group, they've come with their own professions. And I just think we were having a meeting on Monday, I think it was, or on Tuesday. And the mere fact that so many of them was able to talk about their own areas and so knowledgeable about it. And this is what the government needs. I think at the moment they're not doing too well. And I think this group is there to help. Education is so important. Health is so important. Black businesses. We saw what happened about black businesses. And so we need to make sure that the government understands what it is that they need to do to make sure that within our community that we do have all the necessary support that we need to have to sort of move forward.
Definitely. And also policy change. So that's one of the key things, that we are also interested in. But I want to, before I forward onto your childhood and talk about that, we've got to talk about your book, Doreen Lawrence and I Still Rise. If you don't have a copy, you can see I've clearly read it and done my research, but this is such a great book. And I was saying to you during the prep that it really felt like it was your hand holding the reader through, if they're going through something. And I Still Rise, the title. In the book, you actually share that you went to Dr. Mayo Angelou and asked her whether you could use the title of her poem, which was Still I Rise, and you've included the "and" at the beginning. How did that come about? How did you reach out to her and ask to use the title of her poem and include the "and" at the beginning?
I met Maya Angelou some years beforehand, and she did, I think, the second memorial lecture that we had. So she came to London and she did that for us. And to have somebody like her, when I went back to study to do my degree, I read her book, And Still I Rise. And I just think it was just such an important message of all the things that she'd been through. And yet she was able to get through all of that and establish herself in a way in which she has. And so when the time came, we wrote off to her and she graciously agreed that I could use the title. And I was just so proud that she's able to do that. So I think having met her as well, it seems to have helped.
And I think you're totally right. It always helps if you do know someone and you've met them in some sort of a setting, whether it's social, professional, business. But it's great that she also supported your work in terms of what you're doing. For those that don't know, Dr. Maya Angelou, she's an American, or she was, the late Dr. Maya Angelou. She was an American poet and a civil rights activist. And her poem was Still I Rise. It was a 1978 poem, and it was very, very famous. And the poem really does celebrate resilience, self-respect, overcoming oppression. It's a defiant declaration of strength against racism and sexism, promising that like dust and air, the speaker will rise above hate, historical shame, and adversity. And in terms of the resilience, and the R in the D.A.R.E, it also stands for resilience. Some of the words from the poem is, you may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. What do those words mean to you?
Perhaps when I look at myself and around since Stephen's murder, all the things I've had to go through, I've had to endure so much. And at the same time, I've got 2 other children that I have to look after. They were 16 and George was coming up to be 11, so still in education. And I wanted to make sure for them that they achieve what they need to achieve. So having that story and Still I Rise, I had to be that person to be there to support them for them to, so like Stuart, he became a teacher at the end of his degree. Georgina's got 2 degrees, so is to be able to help them, for them to see, and to see me when I did my degree. And so for me, it was just making sure that they understand that I'm there for them and I'm rising through all the difficulty that's been happening to us in the past how many years.
Start with your childhood. You were born in Jamaica. You spent the earlier years of your childhood in Jamaica, and then you came to the United Kingdom, England, when you were 9 years old. And I can recall in your book when you said that it was the first time that you saw and met white people. I mean, how was that transition for you in terms of coming from Jamaica, nice and warm, people that were part of the Windrush generation, where they talk about how grey and dark England was? How did you find England when you came as a 9-year-old?
Very grey. Yeah. And buildings are stuck together, which in the Caribbean you don't have. You can walk around your house. Hardly any sun. Being stuck in a classroom with a lot of kids who don't really like you. There was one boy who was colourblind, and when he asked other kids when he's doing his painting, what colour is this? They would never, ever give him the right colour. They would never tell him. And so he began to know he could ask me what the colour is that he wants to choose. And so we got on. And so it's those little things that you sort of remember. There's those nice things. But I think kids, when you first arrived, they weren't very nice. They used to say to me, I think they were watching a documentary, one of these African countries where I presume people go out with their cows and everything, and they pierce the cow's neck and they drain the blood. I
mean, it's just insane.
I know. And then he said to me, do you do that? I was like, excuse me, I know nothing about stuff like that. And so, so they have no idea. They see you as a black person, so automatically they think that is what you do. And so then you're trying to educate them. So from a very young age, you're trying to educate children around me that is not what we do. You know, it may happen in certain countries, but where I'm from, that's not what happens.
Yeah. I hear stories where some people used to look for the tail. It's like, really? Thankfully, we've come a long way from that. But it's funny, though, because in your book, you did say that you did not experience racism apart from that insensitive comment around African tribes, etc. And I thought that was really interesting that you didn't experience any racism directly.
Not directly.
Ignorant comments, I guess.
As girls during that time, I don't think girls did.
Yeah.
I know my brothers talked about it. And they would say when they're waiting for a bus, they would never stand in the queue. they would stand away from the queue because automatically a white person would think that you're there to rob them or something, so they wouldn't do that. But that, I didn't experience that, because even when I went to work in the bank, that didn't come across either, not really.
So you left school, and then the first job that you did was to work for a bank.
Yeah.
And what sort of work did you do when you worked for a bank?
It was in a clearinghouse, so obviously you don't see checks hardly anymore.
No.
And so we used to get the checks delivered, and we had to balance. So you have different, like you have NatWest Bank, Standard, Royal Bank of Scotland. You used to have all those different checks that comes in. So you have to sort them. And we used to have, I think that's the first computers that I remember ever seeing. It's this huge computer. So you used to feed the checks through and type the amount in. And it had to be balanced at the end of the day. And sometimes it could be out of just a penny. And we couldn't go home until they find that penny and where it is. So you have to go through all. So there's loads of us as young girls in the room, have our different machines that we used to work on, and feeding these checks and writing all the numbers and things through. So, and it was fun because we were all roughly the same age. So I was 17, 18. So we were roughly the same age at that time. So we had fun, and so I used to go to the pubs and stuff at lunchtime. But I'm not a drinker, so one whiff of drink and I'm out. So it was fun. It was fun, and I made friends. There.
Yeah, wonderful. And so I really want to talk about Doreen before the murder. And so how long did you stay in banking? Did you stay in banking up until Stephen's murder?
I was in bank until I had Stephen, so I was young when and I got married really young, so I got married at the age of 20, so I was very young when I got married.
I think that was quite popular back then, though, wasn't it?
Everyone in that got time, quite everybody around me was marrying at that age. So, and Stephen was born, 2 years later, I think I had Stephen. Yeah. And so I left banking then. So, and I think that's what you tend to do as well. You tend to, when you have your children, your first child, you tend to be at home. But I soon get restless with that. So then you've got to find a childminder and stuff. And that was really difficult. And I remember one childminder I had for Stephen. And I used to drop him off in the morning, and he seems to be fine. But in the evening, when I pick him up, he was always crying. And I'm thinking, you should be crying when I'm leaving you, not when I'm picking you up. So something was not right there. And he was only there for a week, and I had to change things. I was working in Goldsmith's bookshop.
Oh, right, yes.
I was working in there as well. So I've had various jobs over the time, especially when my kids were young.
Yeah, and what was Stephen like as a child?
When he was a baby, he cried a lot.
Yeah.
I think
boys tend to, though, don't they? I'm not being sexist here.
Yeah, but I think once he started moving around and crawling, he wanted to be able to move. I think that's what that was probably frustrating him. And then when he started walking, he was what could I say? He loved playing with his cars, little cars that he would I'd buy him, those Matchbox toys that he would have. And he loved drawing. So he would draw pictures like for our birthdays and stuff like that. He would always do it. So the fact that he wanted to be an architect, that was in him all the time. So, and I would say Steve was more of an extrovert than he was an introvert. He loved dancing, and because they used to have birthday parties, all my children up until the age of 10. So every year they had a birthday party, and for his party it was a disco party that he had. And so, I think he had a couple of boys, but the rest of them was all girls that came to his party. And, all I did was sort of provided the food, the drinks, and the music, and just let them. And, he loved that. So, as I say, he was a very considerate person. And I think once he passed, there's certain things about him that I really didn't know. You think you know your child, but other people seem to know a little bit more than what you do. He used to say to me when I was worried about him coming home and late, I used to say to me, Mum, you care too much, because he didn't see anything wrong. Because I say to him, when you're walking down the road, especially at night, you must walk on the opposite side so you can see the cars coming towards you rather than being behind you. So all those little things I used to say, Mum, your problem is you care too much. And I had a right to be caring.
Yeah, definitely.
I had a right to be caring about him.
Definitely. So clearly the murder took place in 1993, and you've spent your whole life fighting for justice, fighting against racism, changing laws. But what was your dream before you were forced to become a campaigner?
I was going to go into teaching.
Yeah.
So my degree was humanities, and I did all the subjects like the history and geography to be a primary school teacher. And I think once Stephen died, I just couldn't do that. I just felt that the kids in the classroom would be like the ones who murdered Stephen, and I just couldn't cope in being in a classroom with them. So I think my first job after graduating was at a domestic violence refuge place.
Oh, no.
But I think because I like supporting people, I like to be there to help where I can. And so trying to find the mothers, it was usually mothers you need to find a place for them to move to make sure that they have financial support and that. And I did that for about 6 months until I moved to work for the University of Greenwich. So I was a student advisor, financial advisor, and I was there for 6 years doing that. And even that, and then I trained. I was doing a therapeutic counsellor, trained to be a therapist. I trained to do that as well, but I haven't practiced
yet.
Well, I'll have to go to another country, I think, to practice. As soon as the clients walked in, they'll know who I am about me, and that's not how it works.
No. And clearly, you're advising the government, the Prime Minister, lots of organisations on racism, on justice, how to create a more equal society, a more equal organisation. What advice would you give? And I've listened to some of your recent podcasts, etc., how you get so many emails and messages. And I get the same, where people send you lots of their problems and, can you help me with X or Y? And it can be, quite
overwhelming.
Yes, definitely. So what advice would you give to someone, the standard person who is potentially facing racism, whether that's with the criminal justice system, within the workplace, maybe within the educational system, where they're getting that 2-1, that 2-2, and they know their work is a first, even in the healthcare system, whether you're a patient or you're a member of staff, what advice would you give to someone? And would you say there's a one fix for everything? Probably not. But what advice would you give to someone who is potentially someone who was not involved with the law, was not involved with anything like this until a tragedy actually hit your own personal life, and then you had to take on that responsibility and drive that through?
It's having the right support mechanism around yourself, because I think if I didn't have that support, I think people look at me thinking, oh, you've done this, but it's with the support of others, and is to know who's around you to support you. And having Imran, especially, he came to our house about 2 days after Stephen died, and he hasn't left my side. And it's having him, and somebody advised you in a way in which that he would never say to me, oh, everything I'm doing is right, because nobody's right for everything. And I think he's able to tell me when I'm doing something wrong. And for me as well to accept that. And so struggling with racism in the workplace, it cannot be easy. It's to find that support mechanism around you, because there must be somebody in that, whether you're part of the union, or there has to be somebody who you can talk to. I know I get loads of letters from people, and they believe I can solve all their problems, and the reality is that I can't. I can try and advise them to where they can go and look for help. They used to have the law centre in most high street. They don't have that anymore. And I would advise people to go to a law centre, talk to somebody, and hopefully somebody there can help you. But it's very difficult, I think, especially now. Where do you go? Because most places are closed down now, and financial position that you're in. And especially if you have to work for a living and, people do 2 or 3 jobs, especially if they're a single parent and looking after their children, life is very difficult for them. And not having that support mechanism around them, it's trying to find that, to find somebody who you can talk to. Because if you can talk to somebody, it helps you relieve the pressure.
I think that's a really good advice. But I think there's also Citizens Advice Bureau. I think there's a few around, across the country. And so that's probably maybe another route if someone is going through something and they're not sure where to go. But I think, one of the key things that we've done is the Brawn Review, which is sponsored by the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Foundation. And that's on boardroom sustainability, inclusion and governance. And you've very kindly provided a recommendation. But I think if you are in the workplace, one of the key things you can do, or even within the healthcare, even in the police system, there are so many organisations across all of these different fields who say that they believe in a more equal, a more diverse, a more inclusive organisation. And so I think contacting the CEO, contacting the board, reaching out, because lots of these organisations are saying that they do believe in that. I mean, clearly there's a backlash over the last few years in terms of some organisations are not so public around that. But one of the key advice and recommendations that you made, I mean, the Brawn Review, for people that don't know, it's it's a report I started at Oxford University, and it has 50 recommendations with 1,000 global board leaders with over 24 sectors. And one of the advice you gave was make sure to talk about race and racism and how to address that in the boardroom.
I think sometimes people find it, especially if nobody looks like you within there, and it's finding somebody who you can and able to talk to. And racism is something, I think sometimes people are frightened to mention the word race. I think race is begin now to be something that's going backwards rather than going forward. After the Macpherson report came out, people beginning to, a company will begin to look at themselves and looking to do training to make sure that they are, they're supporting their workers. I think that's going backwards now. I think whatever it is within, community, the country, people don't feel that safe anymore. We need to go back to that. We really do need to, not just the board, but for professionals to understand that there's people are out there and they should make themselves known as well, so people know where to go. And I think for me, always trying to signpost people, I find it really difficult to know where to signpost people to get the help that they need. It's not so readily available anymore. So we need a lot more of that now. Definitely.
And, lots of the work that you and I do, which is why we've joined forces with the REEG, the Race Equality Engagement Group, to support the Cabinet Office, the UK government, is around equality and how can we make sure that society is more equal. What does equality mean to you in 2026? Especially, I guess, after the Windrush scandal.
What does equality means is that I too can achieve whatever I want to achieve. I don't have to have my father or my mother in certain profession to help me to climb the ladder. I should be able to do that myself. And so that is what I think all of us should be able to do within the Black community. And that is getting so difficult. And that's why I think for our young people, hence why from the foundation about careers, community and classroom, is that young people are within the classroom, they're also in the community and they also need a career. So it's to make sure that they have that support to achieve. And so the foundation is looking at working in schools. We're working with architectural professionals as well. So signposting is really good because if you've got nowhere to signpost, then you're just stuck.
Yeah.
You're really stuck. So you need organisations that's out there, people that's out there to say, look, here I am, I can help you.
Yeah. And I think just the fact that, you've got your organisation, I've got mine, this is really key because, you're helping so many young people.
Definitely. And I'm so proud to see our architectural who's qualified now and to see how much they've achieved is really good. And I'm looking for the next stage now. So we've just started again with We've got a couple of students over at University of Greenwich. We've got students in UEL doing design. So it's building on those and making sure that they understand that as a foundation, we're there to support them and the alumni so that they can sort of support the young ones coming up. Or you always need to have that. Someone's there to say, well, when I was doing this course, this is what happens. How can I help you to move forward?
Definitely.
You always need to have the next person giving your hand up.
Definitely. And so, and it sounds like we can collaborate in more than one way. So I would love to clearly, continue that conversation. But what would you say has been one of the biggest challenges that you've had to face over the last 30 years of campaigning for racial justice? Because I guess some of your privacy is taken away as well, because you're now a public figure. It might be difficult to walk down the street without lots of people recognising you. We
were talking about that. We had somebody come to talk to us about security yesterday.
Oh, right. Because is this at the House of Lords?
Yeah. In the House of Lords, we have our own police force.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We have our own police force there.
Yeah.
And so chief constable that we have there. And so since, I don't know, I think before COVID, that especially MPs were being attacked. And I think sometimes they forget about the House of Lords that we too. But many of the peers will walk out, not everybody recognise them, but I do. And so we're talking about from where my office building is to where the main building will be going to the chamber, we have to walk across the road to get there. And the amount of time I've been stopped on the street. And you try to be really polite to people, but they don't know that the mere fact that you don't know them and all of a sudden somebody's stopping you, I want to touch you. That for me, that is quite unnerving.
Yes.
For that.
Yeah.
And so security is always a big problem for me. And I think now I've been driving to work now rather than only because of my operation, but being on public transport is always very worrying for me. And so, yes, in the house we do have security. We have armed police around all the time, especially what happened to one of the officers that died.
Yes.
And an MP who was attacked in her constituency. In fact, 2 MPs been attacked. So there's security.
They've definitely tightened it up because when you walk past now the House of Lords or the House of Commons, you've got the long metal fences now.
It's like being in prison.
It looks like a prison, it does.
It's like being in prison.
Like that. Yeah. But there was also something that was shared on the 12th of September 2025 in the media when you were floored by the allegation that the Daily Mail was spying on you, and you found that out through Prince Harry, and you were spied on by the police during your family's campaign for justice. I mean, we hear stories about this, but when it actually happens to you as a person, I mean, how did you feel when, getting a message to say, by the way, your messages have been tampered with? And
I know, my phone's been tapped. My bank account's been looked into. It's hard to believe that people can actually get into your bank account, but they can. They can see everything that you do. I think for me, it's like the grace of God, go I, because I've got nothing else protecting me. When I think that the police should be out there protecting me, they're the ones who are spying on me. So you have some officers. There are some genuine police officers. I shouldn't say it. They're not all like that. But there are those who don't mean me well. And that's quite worrying because you don't know who they are. You don't know who they are. So you're out and I'm just praying that I can go out and come home again and be safe because I don't know what would happen to me one day. So it is worrying. And hence my children, so nobody knows what my daughter looks like, so she can come and go as she please, which I think is really good. And that's why I try to protect especially when they were really young. Is that nobody knew them. Nobody could see who they are. Because it's just...
I think that's so wise. Clearly your son is a bit more of a public figure.
He's beginning to be. He's a grown man. I can't tell you what. I know.
He's like, nearly 50 now? Or...
Yeah, I can't tell him what to do. But he's managing himself okay, but Georgina would never allow herself to be and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. Then I know that she's safe because okay, your first name. There's so many people call that name. So when she was a teenager, she was working in a retail place. She would never have a surname on her badge.
Wow.
We wouldn't want anybody to know
just
who she
in case.
is. Yeah, so her first name's fine.
Do you know, just talking about the police, there was a section here where you mentioned police accountability, and you were talking about how the police had said that they had done everything possible. And this is page 134 of your book, where you had literally said, PC Dunn was killed, and I'm sorry about what happened to him, but when PC Dunn was killed, you had helicopters out and everyone searching for killers. Within 24 hours, you had arrested somebody. The wrong man, but you did arrest someone. In Stephen's case, none of those things were done. So don't tell me that you did everything you could. Do not compare Stephen's case to that of PC Dunn, because it took a lot. And page 154 in the chapter Sands in the Wheel of Justice, you actually, no one else had done this until you had done this. For a century and a half, you brought a private prosecution for murder that had never been done for a century and a half. I mean, clearly you had Imran Khan, and Imran Khan, I've met him over the years, and with various board roles that I've had, he has been very supportive. He's spoken on various panels that I've chaired or organised. I mean, how did you feel when you were going through that, going to the Old Bailey? This is a private prosecution for the murder of your son.
Well, the CPS,
Prosecution Service,
would not prosecute. And when you think about Stephen's case,
and why wouldn't they prosecute? What was the reason that they gave?
They claim that there's not enough evidence. There's no evidence of proof that they did this.
Even though in the book and letters, etc., went to police stations to say, here's the names, here's the addresses.
They had everything.
Yeah.
But they chose not to do anything. And so for us to have the private prosecution, but even that, they pretend that they were supporting us. And then at the end of the day that they weren't. Because when they did a recording of one of them in their flat, when they all were together. And so we had that
I saw that.
That as evidence.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, we had various evidence. So we didn't have one particular thing. And so we thought with the private prosecution, we would have, the jury would have heard, they were able to convict. But yet again, the justice system was set up to fail us. The judge that they brought, Justice Curtis, I've never heard his name again. I've never seen anything of him. But he was brought in especially, I believe, for Stephen's case. He did not allow the juries to hear anything. He spent 2 weeks on legal arguments, and then he instructed the jury to bring a not guilty verdict. He could have said there's no case to answer and allow us to come back again. But by doing that, so there's to bring a not guilty verdict, that means you could never charge those individuals again, because that's it. That's the end of it. But with the double jeopardy law that was changed through Stephen's case, we were able to, at least one of them, and he's been convicted and sent to prison. But we had that. But they did nothing to help. They're pretending that they were helping us. And I've always said there's this officer, John Cant, during the private prosecution time when we were doing everything that we could. And then when we had the inquest, he stood up and said that we stood no chance of getting anywhere. But he led us to believe that we would. So he was lying to us all the time. So now whenever I speak to any police officers, it's because of him why we had the inquiry. If he didn't lie, we would never have had an inquiry. It made me so mad. That's how come we had the public inquiry, because he lied.
Yeah. And what do you think about the criminal justice system now? Do you think it's better? Do you think it's worse? It's the same?
I don't know. If you were to hear when individuals write and say about their cases, it doesn't sound any better. It does not sound any better. The level of proof that you have to have. And yes, I understand that. But to give them the right support to get your case they don't have that. And so the justice system, it only works for certain people. It doesn't work for everybody.
Do you think racism is worse now?
Racism has gone back.
Yeah.
I think perhaps about, 10 years ago, I probably think we're beginning to move forward. I feel now we've gone back again. Racism has raised its head within politics, and so people don't feel safe anymore. The neighbourhoods, my big worry now, they talked about how they're changing. They're going to have, 26 police force now, because they begin to reduce the police forces now. So you've had a new review that's come, how they're going to, police is going to be managed now. There's about 26, they say. You're going to have more neighbourhood policing and some more officers on the beat. Now that worries me, because if you think a group of black boys is walking down the road and you have more police officers walking the street, those guys are going to be rounded up. Racism is going to be so much there. And they're trying to persuade me that things are going to be different, but I don't believe. I want to see in how many years' time for people to start saying, well, this is what's happened. We were out with our friends, and yes, we did see some officers, and they were really, supportive, encouraging, asking us what we were doing and if we need any help. That's what you want to see, but I don't think that's what we're going to get.
Well, hopefully with the REEG, we can maybe help to change some policies and processes to make sure that doesn't repeat itself.
We're going to need a lot of monitoring of police action. And I'm not sure, I've just sent something off to College of Police, because I think they're the ones going to be the overall looking at this. And I have spoken to the College of Police about this and about my worry. And he's trying to convince me to say that things will be a lot different. But unless police officers, especially constables, the level of education that they had before, unless that's changed, because you used to have people leaving school at 16, spend 2 years doing whatever, and then join the force at 18, being given a warrant card, being given all that power. They have no idea of life.
Yeah.
But yet they are the ones that police in the street.
I know.
So that is a big worry.
It is.
And unless they change how police officers come into the force, how they're educated, because that's the only profession that they can do that with. Now, if you want to be a doctor, you spend five years.
Yeah, a lawyer.
A lawyer,
5, 6, years. Yeah. Architect, all these professions.
But police officers...
You can start at 16.
No, you start at 18.
But you do training, because I had a friend at school, and she left school at 16 and she became a police officer.
Not until she was 18, though.
Okay, so maybe there's the training for 2 years. Or...
No, they don't do no training.
Why do they not? Oh, that's interesting.
Because they, as I say, they leave school at 16.
Yeah.
They probably do a part-time job, whatever, and then join the force. You can't join the force
until you've got to be 18.
You've got to be 18. And then you go to Hendon or something to do
it's in Hendon.
To do your training. But then that's when you're 18, not when you're 16. I think a police cadet is something completely different that young people join.
Maybe that's what she joined, because I know from 16 to 18 she was doing something.
A police cadet is a completely different thing. To be a police officer, to be a constable, is 18. You join the force for that.
So maybe we have lots of young people that listen to this podcast, so hopefully this will help to inspire and motivate more diverse candidates to actually join the police force, because we need that.
That would be good. And also for them to know their rights.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of people on they don't understand their rights.
Yeah.
The police need your consent to police them. They need your consent. And the police officers themselves don't understand that themselves. Because when I say that and they look at me really peculiar, public, you need a public's consent to police you.
And I think that's really important.
So if
but
people
to
understand,
know what the law is, and I think the law should be taught in schools.
Definitely. After the inquiry, they had a little, like a credit card, little booklet that would tell you your rights. So they would print it out, loads of them. And they always used to be in the back of the police station. They're supposed to give that out to the public so the public can understand, but the public never got those.
And sometimes it's intimidating. I mean, I went to law school and qualified and, got called to the bar. And when I was learning about the law, I just thought this is something that everyone should know, just to give you that confidence so that you can challenge in the appropriate way.
Exactly.
But if you don't know, you just accept what the other person's saying as fact.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not always the case.
True, yeah.
So what should businesses be doing to address systemic racism?
Make sure that they have enough people within their boardroom.
Yeah.
If they don't have people in their boardroom, then they continue to do the same thing they've done for centuries. And also, in fact, companies would benefit. I think that they don't understand that either. They would benefit from having a more diverse workforce because everybody comes with different views and different opinions, and so they would benefit.
Definitely financial, there's so much research and information out there in terms of how organisations and businesses will benefit by having a more diverse organisation, but also inclusive. And that's why I launched the Brawn Review, to focus on the inclusion aspect, because you could have a few diverse members in the boardroom, but if they're not respected, they're not being listened to, they're being outvoted by the majority, then that's not going to work. So it's really important that I personally think that if you've got the diverse boardroom, you've also got to make sure that policies and processes are also revised to align for that and to create the culture in the organisation so that people can feel confident to speak up and actually challenge. And if you have a culture where you're then considered the troublemaker or, oh, no, you don't understand, then that's going to take a really long time for change to happen. So I think it's really important as well to look at the culture of an organisation, the culture of a business.
And also, if you're too challenging, especially for in the black community, they see you as being aggressive.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is...
all those stereotypes.
All you're doing is standing up for your rights, or trying to stand up for your rights.
Or just speaking up against injustice. Yeah. So let's talk about Doreen, the lady behind, all the great work that you're doing. What do you enjoy doing? What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I do reading. Mind, I haven't read much recently. I go.
You looked at the Brawn Review, hopefully.
Yeah, I go.
I'll send you another copy.
I go to the gym. I like doing aqua. I used to do Zumba. I don't do that much anymore because my knee was bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Those are my weekend things that I'll do.
Yeah. And, R in the D.A.R.E stands for rest and relaxation. I think it's so important to focus on that. Because I think when people look at successful people with the titles, the awards, all the great work they're doing, they think, oh, they're workaholics, they're always on the go. But in order to sustain, one of the advice that one of my very first mentors gave me when I was in my 20s was, your career is a marathon, not a sprint. So it's really important to have that rest, have that relaxation. But, when we talk about health is your wealth. And, one of the things that people probably don't realise is that when you are doing all of this work, I mean, one of the things you shared in the book, and I think in some articles and things that I read researching this, was that you said that you actually, due to the stress of the case, you lost your hair.
Yes.
So that had a negative impact on your health.
Well, I think when people look at you, they think that everything seems to be fine.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, it's the emotional turmoil that you go through.
Yeah.
And for me, the last thing I expected was to lose my hair, and that's what happened. And because wearing wigs and stuff, I hate it. I really hate it. Hate doing it. So I thought, this is me, and I'm going to just be me.
Yeah. And I love that. And I was me today with my natural curls. I thought, I'm not going to have a blow dry. I'm going to just rock the natural curls. But, for someone who is at work, a woman of colour, someone young, maybe, a minority, what advice would you give them, someone with a disability, to speak up within the workplace? So not someone outside who's experiencing racism, not a business, but someone inside.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be yourself. You can't be anybody else.
Yeah.
because I think when people say to me, "Oh, how do you do this?" and in fact, I used to say to my friends, because I think sometimes people see it that being in the House of Lords and you're a peer and whatever. It's still me. I'm still me, and I can't be anything different.
Yeah.
I don't know to be anything different.
But you're such an inspiration for so many people, me included, because how many people would have done what you've done for so many decades? So many people and so many families have accepted.
I don't think that people really accept if something like
maybe
this
not
happened to them.
accept, but they probably wouldn't have gone to the lengths that you've gone to get that justice.
Yeah, then it's not always easy though, and I think we need to sort of remember that not everybody can. I presume it's that stubbornness in me that's probably has pushed me. But I think a lot of parents, a lot of us gone through the same thing. And I can remember somebody who from the Grenfell, he lost his son and he couldn't speak and because the trauma of that. And yes, I've been through all of that, but there are times I think because of how I was treated, how the police behave, and I was sort of just said, I'm not going to just sit back and allow you. My son's worth more than that. And so that's what I made sure that I spoke out.
Yeah.
And so, it's not an easy thing. And, I think you lose some of yourself as well by doing that. So it's not, I'd love to be able to walk down the street and just feel I can talk to anybody, but no, I don't. I feel I can't do that.
Yeah.
So it makes me, I sort of withdraw a bit more than I would have done.
Yeah.
But when I was younger and I was out with my kids, you talk to everybody, but now I don't. You sort of hold yourself in. Yeah. Especially when you don't know and who you can trust anymore.
It's true. It's very true. So AI is everywhere. It's promising the increase of productivity, economic growth. 8 years ago, I was in Paris talking on it. It was the first female panel for this tech conference. And we were talking about AI diversity and the bias. And, AI, there is the threat of it widening inequality, whether it's wealth, race, gender, disability. What are your thoughts on that?
I find the whole thing quite frightening, really. I must say, when I was part of my human rights group, we'd have people come talk to us about AI. And we don't understand AI. I think people start developing it without putting in all the safeguards that needs to be there. And they haven't got it yet. And so AI can run away with you. I think when you sort of listen to some of the stuff they talk about when young people are on and tell them about committing suicide and pretending to be something. So all them things are quite frightening. And we don't understand, there's nothing they put in place. And it'll take a while. And by then, how far AI is going to go? We just don't know.
There definitely needs to be regulation and AI is just reliant upon the data that we feed it. So we need more people, more women, more diverse people, more people of colour entering into the AI field. Because at the moment now it's mostly...
You don't know, because sometimes I've listened to people saying that it's beginning to sort of address issues that you're not ready to address. So this is where you need to be very careful about what you're feeding into it.
Yeah.
We don't have those understanding at the moment. And those people who are developing that, they're not telling you everything. They're not telling you everything that's there. So we got to be very careful. As I said, every time I listen to any professional telling me about AI, I get really, really worried. I get really worried because we don't know. We have no understanding because those things people are not telling us what it is that we need to know about it.
And it's funny, with the guests that I've had on for season 3, when they talk about AI, they're like, no one really knows what the future means when it comes to AI. It's moving so quickly. So we are coming to the end, and I've got so many other questions, but look, we're a successful mindset podcast. Do you have any success tips? Visualization, vision boards?
Oh, gosh.
Do you draw your dreams?
No, I don't. I don't know. I presume I think quite a lot about so many things and so many things I'd like to see that happens and what would work. But to sort of sit and do a vision board, no, I've never done that. But then I think sometimes life just moves so quickly that I don't really have time to do all of that. I think before, it's hard to believe that next week will be 33 years since Stephen was killed.
Wow.
It's that long. And in that space of time, I can't tell you everything that I've done. I mean, so people say, yes, you've done X, Y, Z. But I think time moves so quickly.
Definitely
moves so
does.
quickly. So I think for me, what I'd like to see is my children to be happy, grandchildren.
Yeah.
And
You've got one grandchild, yeah?
No, I've got 3.
Oh, you've got 3 now? Yeah.
No, well, because the eldest one, Mia, she's 21, so she's at uni. The boys are 15, so they just started doing the GCSEs. So, yeah. No, they're, I presume, because Ethan lives with me at the moment, so I see more of him.
Yeah. And
I was looking at him this morning, and he looks so grown up today. I'm not sure why he looks grown up today, but he looks so grown up today. And it's just for them to be happy, really, and for them to succeed. I think that's what my vision would be.
And is that your version of what success means to you in 2026?
What it means to me, health.
Yeah, that's so key.
Yeah, health is something.
Number one. Without health, you can't do anything.
Yeah, to be health, have health. And I don't know, I mean, it's not saying happiness. I don't think I've been really happy since Stephen's death. So that's really difficult. And I'd like to have a life, or with somebody in my life, really, that you share things with. That's something else. You're so busy doing everything else, that doesn't seem to have happened. So, yeah.
Well, maybe 2026 is the year. I mean, what's next for you?
REEG, the Race Equality
We are
Group,
going to do this,
to make sure that the work that we do does not sit on the shelf, that government takes notice of what we're doing. And so that whatever it is that we do, we're doing it for others and not just for ourselves.
Definitely. And that's what it's all about. So we got some quick rapid fire questions really, really quickly in the last sort of few minutes. Are you a night owl or early bird?
An early bird.
Early bird. And what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
I don't know. Radio's on. I need to hear voices.
Yeah. And what's the last thing you do before you go to bed at night?
Hear voices.
Okay, so there's a trend.
Because I tend to listen to the radio, and I like...
Which station do you listen to?
I don't know, Radio 4.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I listen to the Archers quite a bit, and I find that I like listening to other people's stories.
Yes, no, I do enjoy that as well. What's your favourite book, or a book that's changed your life, uplifted you? I don't know, I think I read so many. I think perhaps going back to when I started studying, went back into education, is I Know Why the Cage Birds Sing by Angelou. I think that's just a strong motivation. Definitely. What's your favourite song?
Gosh. I like Sam Cooke's. I like a lot of his music. What's my favourite one in that? I can't think.
What's your favourite film?
I don't know. I really don't. Okay, I've seen... Do you know, I was trying to remember. I went to see the film where the Bee Gees had one of their famous songs in, and the actor in that, he was dancing.
I don't know.
In fact, there's a clip on the TV recently, and I'm sure it's him. And for the life of me, I can't remember his name. Yeah. And I would love to remember his name. When I was young, we used to go? I remember my aunt taking me to the cinema for the first time when I came over. We went to see a Cliff Richard summer holiday thing.
Oh, yeah. I remember watching that.
And that was quite good.
Yeah.
When you're young, that's good.
Do you know one thing, though? One thing we didn't touch upon was the children of the Windrush. So, you've got the parents that left the Caribbean countries, the Asian countries, they came to England, they worked, sent money back. And then the children, i.e. yourself, you're 9 years old. And in the book, you mention how you didn't really know your mother. You met her at the airport and she was like a stranger. And I think that's something that's not really touched upon when we talk about the Windrush generation. We don't really talk about the connection and how the families were broken up, where, you know, the parents had to go to England, you know, work. They were invited to come.
Yes, invited, yeah.
And then the children followed, sometimes many, many years later. And then you're having to reform bonds.
Because I live with my grandmother. That's who brought me up, was my grandmother. So I never knew my mother. I think she must have left me when I was about 2.
Yeah.
So I don't remember her at all. And I don't remember seeing any photographs of her either until I got here.
Wow.
I don't remember seeing any photographs of her.
Yeah. So that's really important when we talk about Windrush. But when was the last time you cried?
All the time.
You cry all the time, so you're a crier.
I think, especially when I'm watching the TV and I see something's really sad, especially if somebody's hurting.
Yeah.
I don't watch horror films because
I don't like horror films.
I don't watch because I can't sleep. But I find myself, there's so many things I find upsetting whenever I watch the TV, especially where children are concerned. Somebody's hurt. Yeah, that brings tears, yeah.
Okay, the last question of our rapid fire. Heels, flats or trainers?
Flats for me.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we always ask, we've come to the end, the very last question. Even though D.A.R.E, we've gone through what that stands for. But we always ask, what do you dare our audience to do?
What do I dare my audience to do? I don't know, to be happy. You know, because I think life throws so much at you all the time. Is to be confident in who you are and to be happy.
And I think that's really important because life is full of ups and downs and challenges. And to put a smile on your face, to keep laughing, to be happy no matter what you're going through, that takes some bravery. It really does. Baroness Doreen Lawrence, I want to say thank you so much for being a guest on the D.A.R.E podcast. We're all about successful mindsets. Thank you for your friendship, for your support of not just the D.A.R.E podcast, but the Miranda Brawn Diversity Leadership Foundation, the Brawn Review on Boardroom Sustainability, Inclusion and Governance. It's an absolute pleasure to work with you on the REEG and advise the government on equality, especially focused on race. And I just want to say thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you'd like to leave with our guests and the audience?
I think people look at me and think that she does so much, but at the same time, I'm quite an introvert person, so I very rarely have that much to say, and I very rarely talk about myself. Yeah.
Well, you've done a great job today. And I think the audience will definitely learn a bit more about the lady behind all the awards, all the titles, all the great work that you've done. So thank you so much for being part of the D.A.R.E podcast. We are all about mentoring and coaching at your fingertips from the classroom to the boardroom and beyond. And we're focused on successful mindsets. You've just been listening to the D.A.R.E podcast. I'm Miranda Brawn, and you've just heard all about Baroness Doreen Lawrence. Well, maybe not all, because there's a lot more. I'm sure we could do another 60 minutes on this. But thank you so much for your support. Feel free to like, share, comment. If you would like to recommend a guest or provide sponsorship, you can email us at thedarepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, take very good care. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Doreen Baroness Lawrence, and I'm here on the D.A.R.E podcast.
In every month and then hit the repeat button to become the best version of yourself.